After 53 days in office, President Obama's poll numbers are falling to earth, and they are falling faster than ever before. Right now, his total approval rating stands at 57%, according to the latest Rasmussen Reports poll. If you take a look back at the approval ratings for previous presidents in the last 100 or so years after 50 days in office, it's the worst showing on record. Doug Schoen, a political advisor to President Clinton, was part of the team that took that poll. He's a Fox News analyst. Jennifer Miller-Wise-Dyke was deputy communications director for Bush Cheney in 2004. Doug, do these results surprise you?
Well, they surprise me at how quickly the president has fallen, but given that the stimulus package, the bailout, and the budget are all regarded negatively to mixed by the American people, I guess, John, it's not so surprising.
What surprised me when looking at the article that you wrote about this, you wrote a substantial degree of polarization so early. Mr. Obama has lost virtually all of his Republican support and a good part of his independent support. And we're not talking about Capitol Hill. We're talking about voters. You got to have the middle, right?
That's absolutely right. And while the president has tried to build bipartisanship, what the poll evidence shows now is that he hasn't succeeded in holding on, as you suggest, to either any Republicans or most of the independents. So he's isolated with just his Democratic base.
Would you agree, Jennifer, that he has lost that middle support? And if so, why?
I think he has. Usually I think in the first couple of months, a president experiences a little bit of a honeymoon phase. But what you have are voters paying an extreme amount of attention to the day-to-day happenings at the White House, greatly because of this economic crisis. So what are they seeing? They're seeing an administration that's spending an awful lot of time talking about education, energy, health care, all important issues, but doing it in lieu of and before addressing the banking crisis. They're seeing a president who's saying to us, Americans have to tighten their belts, Americans have to sacrifice. People buy into that, but then at the same time, he's proposing incredible amounts of new spending programs and talking about tax hikes. Those are issues where you really start to lose, especially Republicans, and I think independents are a little surprised and disappointed.
Well, Doug, he does seem to say in most of his public speeches these days on the economy that we inherited this mess, meaning his administration inherited this mess, and it's going to take time to fix it. Is that not resonating?
It is resonating, and people agree that the problem is President Bush's, not the Democrats. But when they look at the solutions President Obama has proposed, they're skeptical that they'll work quickly enough or that they won't create new problems like an exploding deficit or more inflation.
Yeah, or perhaps, Jennifer, that they're just not the right solutions.
Well, and when you have Saturday Night Live featuring the Treasury Secretary as someone who's out of touch and doesn't know how to address the problem, that doesn't help when you have that level of pop culture engaging with the Treasury Secretary. I think there's another thing at play when you talk about some of the, I mentioned before, disappointment that people are experiencing. This is someone, again, who campaigned on changing the tone, no politics from the White House. We've seen an amazing amount of hypocrisy and politics, whether it's the White House Chief of Staff spending time on Sunday morning talk shows, spending time talking about Rush Limbaugh in lieu of the economic crisis. If it's the White House press secretary condemning their critics from CNBC and other places from the White House podium. These are just things I don't think people expected, not to mention the hypocrisy of signing in thousands of earmarks in your first budget the same day you're condemning earmarks, or saying you'll never do a signing statement and then doing a signing statement with your first budget. It's just people, the hypocrisy level, I think, is pretty surprising.
Well, and another point, Doug, that you make is that people, who are taking a look at the first actions of this administration, and a great many Americans think the bank bailout, is unfair.
Well, that's right. They look at these failing banks and they say, why should they get special help? When I work, I pay my taxes, play by the rules, and I'm not getting any help. And they look at the bailout for those who have failing home mortgages, and they say, I'm paying my mortgage, why don't I get helped? And they're skeptical. They're questioning.
All right, Doug Schoen and Jennifer Miller-Wise-Dyke, thank you.